The big oil producers like Nigeria and Angola obviously are the hardest hit. The interesting thing is that, they've seen a similar fall back in 2008-9, and we've always said that in fact this time round they would have learnt their lessons and they would act more quickly, and I think that's true. Doesn't mean to say they still aren't under pressure, but we've seen big cutbacks in spending in both Nigeria and Angola, and they've both let their exchange rates adjust. So, it's difficult at the moment, but we think that particularly as oil prices start to recover, then they will, come through the other side in reasonable shape. We've obviously had a lot of debut Eurobond issuance from lots of countries that you wouldn't have imagined would be issuing Eurobonds a few years ago. And the big challenge is putting that money to good use. And it's a bit early in the day for us to say that that's actually happening. But you can see debt ratios starting to rise in countries like Kenya, and they have big infrastructure programs, and that's important. So it's just a bit early to sort of see the money being spent on the infrastructure and actually starting to have an impact on growth. So that's going to be the challenge. Getting decent projects together, effectively implemented, so that this money actually has a long-term benefit. We spend a lot of time talking to governments, so it's very useful to have a forum like this where we can get feedback from investors, because it's always important to know what other people are thinking. And the market is not something we're following on a day-to-day basis, so feedback from the people who come here is useful. And obviously the fact that you're getting increased attendance year after year is a good sign that capital markets are developing in the region, and that's very important. So this is a good venue to bring all these various sides of the markets together. Africa reminds me a lot of Latin America 20 years ago, when it had just come back into the markets. And it was very early days, and I think what you're going to see in Africa is a long-term improvement in performance, but there's probably going to be interruptions on the way. Now, we're in a period, fortunately, where the global economy is recovering. We might have a bit of an issue when US rates start to rise, but I think investors in particular need to look through short-term turbulence in Africa and just look to the long term, and it's a good growth story, and there's lots of potential. But the message for the government is to keep on the reform path. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda has been the big ratings improver in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's because it's been really focused on getting reforms done. So, and it's difficult, it's politically difficult and it's administratively difficult, but if you can do that, then you get the benefits, certainly as far as ratings are concerned.